wonderful 101. This is probably the best example of a diamond in the rough, acting as an amalgamation of what made Platinum Games and Nintendo great, wrapped up in its own original style. And while it never received the financial acclaim that it rightfully deserves, it has earned a small but very vocal fandom and a much-deserved cult classic status. Probably one of the game's greatest strengths is its collection of boss fights, as many of the major boss battles have as much love and care put into them as the final boss in any other action game. So here I am counting on the bosses in the W101 from worst to best. The only rule is that with one exception, all the boss battles are going to be from the end of each operation. With all that said, set your hype levels to 101%, and let's get started.
Team, unite up!
Roger! Watch the tentacles!
You know all that talk about how much love and care was put into all the boss fights in the game? Well, throw that all out the window for this fight, cause for every rule there's an exception, and this mechanical cephalopod is one massive exception. The first phase is probably the best part of this fight, as O'Darko uses 4 attacks, that being shooting fire, lasers, a smash attack, and dropping some bombs onto the statue. The attacks are simple to avoid, and it plays a little mind game with you by having 2 of the attacks color-coded differently. After you destroy 2 of the tentacles, you break off the statue's base and presumably leaving O'Darko at the bottom of the ocean, only for it to grab the Virgin Victory to start the second phase. This is where everything falls apart. Not only is the space on the ship obnoxiously small, you have to take the ship's health into consideration for this part of the fight, because every other attack hits the ship, and when it gets destroyed, you die instantly. In the other fights when the ship was used, it was your skills that kept the ship functioning throughout the battle. Here, it's whether the boss uses a specific attack like the Wrecking Ball or the Machine Gun. And while you can repair parts of the ship, it only helps out so much. Speaking about attacks, that ink blob deserves a special notice because it's about as large as the platform that you're on. So I had to ask, how am I supposed to avoid it? After completely disarming the Octarian's secret weapon, the third phase begins. The third phase is better, I guess. After rescuing Luca, you jump onto the head of the machine, rip open its weak spot, and start bashing away at it until it goes down. However, unlike the other bosses where you get the satisfaction of killing it, here the boss gets away and you have to kill it again in a later stage. You'd think the rematch would be an improvement, but nope. In contrast to the first fight, the rematch is pathetically easy, especially when using Unite Hammer to damage it and Unite Sword to deflect its laser beam. What doesn't help is that the level preceding it is probably the worst level in the entire game. While I like the concept for this boss, the fact that it was botched up twice earns it a place at the bottom of the list.
Team, unite up!
Roger!
At number 9, we have the one exception to the end of the operations rule, the mid-boss from Operation 6B, Lambo, or as I prefer to call him, Hambo. Why? Because his dialogue is so freaking hammy.
The cosplay brigade returns! My beloved Orochi!
Here you play as the original Wonder Red in a flashback of the last Geth invasion. After boarding a plane, you meet up with Arthur Wedgeworth and a kid who shows up in modern Wonder Red's flashbacks for some reason. After arguing who should have to do the noble sacrifice, Hambo attacks, and after he kills an old man and scars a child for life, the battle begins. Without a doubt, I can definitely say that this battle might be one of the toughest fights in the game. As you slowly chip away at Hambo's health, he will drop a device that can turn the tide of battle, making his minions into helpful units. This allows Major Nelson to use his Unite morph. This tips the tide back in your favor and gives you the needed edge to have a fighting chance to take Hambo down. Despite being a carbon copy of the fight earlier in the game, it's much more difficult, as you only have 1 offensive Unite morph and 2 evasive morphs. Once you whittle down enough of Hambo's health, you finish him off with a Giga Drill break and the fight is over. Also, the cutscene after gives you an explanation why he has a mechanical leg earlier in the game. That's nice. While this battle didn't play out the best in comparison to the rest of the fights, I have to say that I really like the character development it gives from Major Nelson and Wonder Red. Unfortunately, the actual fight itself can be really frustrating due to the fact that you don't have much to work with. So in comparison to all the other boss fights in the game, a challenge comes out of limitations rather than by design. Hence why I really can't put it any higher. I'll never get tired of that.
Team, unite up!
Roger!
This operation starts by taking down a UFO on a nearby communications tower. It's a short and simple fight, but the only notable thing is that the enemy has the power to shut down your Unite morphs. After that, a familiar face from an earlier level shows up for a rematch. He's back, he's rearmed, and he is ready to destroy the top. Or he could just fall off, whatever works. In this battle, you have to protect the communications tower while fighting off Gah-Goojin. Here, he'll attack by throwing explosives, attacking the tower with that arm of his, and summoning 2 mini-bosses from the very first stage to distract you. One point in this fight's favor is that unlike the fight from earlier on the list, you have a large amount of room to maneuver, and most of the attacks are blockable. Once you whittle down his health for the first time, his second form will replace the faceplates with spikes, so only Unite Whip will be able to damage it. Eventually, Giga-Goojin will get desperate and throw an entire building at your team, and the only way to stop it is by tearing the building apart by punching it, and holy shit, this is amazing! On a side note, one of the things that I really like about this fight is that all throughout the battle you see the wonderful 101 sense of humor, all of which is gag-based and not requiring any dialogue to enjoy. In the final stretch, you tear off the boss's head and you jump into the machine to take it down from the inside out. After going through a little bit of platforming, you take out the boss's mechanical heart to finish it off. The battle ends with one of the most hilarious finishers in the game, and letting Gah-Goojin explode from a safe distance. A great end to a great battle.
Team, unite up!
After making it to the underground statue, Gah-Goojin shows up for a third time. Are they just running out of ideas for bosses or something? Whatever. You protect the statue from the boss's attempt to destroy the platform that you're on, and then the battle comes to a complete halt when you get to a lava fall. After a very creative use of Unite Bomb, you jump into the robot to take down its pilot, and then you get to pilot the mech. And it is awesome! Also, if you look on the touchscreen, the wonderful ones look similar to another team of young adults with attitude. After a quick tutorial where you punch dragons, you meet Hambo's older brother, who's packing a Revengeance reference and an even larger mecha. And then Punch Out. No, seriously, the punching, the dodging, the telegraphing of attacks, it's Punch Out, but with giant robots. I have no idea on how you can make this fight any more awesome. You even have 2 special moves that can be pulled off, which is great. And while I think the jumping feels a bit off, the fight is still a ton of fun. Once you knock out the Tiki Face mecha, you can jump into the robot and take down Wallagh for reals this time, and then fly out of the lava before the boss explodes. Or catch a ride on the Virgin Victory by riding it like a hoverboard. That'll work. And yet the boss just doesn't know when to stand down as he rushes to stop you by throwing rocks and shooting lasers at you. After flying out of an erupting volcano, you shoot him down with one final quick time event, and end it all off with hands down the most badass finishing line in the game.
You might not care about your bro like most people do, bro, but think of it this way. We're giving you a chance to make it up to him. In hell!
Team, unite up!
So after learning about the Get Jerk Armada's goal to destroy the planet's shield generator, Mother Platinum, you return to a warped version of Blossom City and eventually find the major antagonist, General Gimme, in his warship. The first part takes cues from the first major boss fight with a flight section where you dodge obstacles and shoot the thrusters, causing his ship to slow down. After ramming the ship out of the sky, you jump onto the ship to start the level. What follows is a long climb up to the top of the ship to get Luca back and take down the General. On the way, you fight every other enemy in the game, minus the giant enemy crab. You know, this reminds me of the Arc of Yamato from Okami. In fact, they're both flying ships. That can't be a coincidence. After the enemy onslaught, you find yourself on the top of the ship. Destroy the 4 cannons and hit the 4 weak spots to take down the warship. Alright, where's the boss? Oh my god. The ship wasn't housing the boss. It is the boss. After effectively being outmatched by a larger-than-large mecha, this happens. I don't know why, but I'm getting Evangelion vibes from this. And after the introduction of Platinum Robo, we start Wonderful Punch-Out 2.0. This fight is much like the earlier fight, with the first half being nothing but a storm of punches and the occasional laser beam. However, in the second half, Giga-Goojin introduces a few new moves. One showing how large the scale is as he throws earlier bosses like Wallagh-Goojin and Gah-Goojin at you, and the other where he summons earlier bosses like Orochi to attack you. When Giga-Goojin's health is knocked down, Platinum Robo busts into his head and the team tries to rescue Luca, only to fail. After a huge plot revelation on Mother Platinum that I'm not gonna spoil, Major Nelson guns down the boss and launches Gimme to his demise, effectively ending the fight and by extension the war between Earth and the Geth Jerk. All's well that ends well.
Mother Platinum.
It's destroyed.
Well, we're screwed.
Team, unite up!
What if I were to tell you that one of the most creative bosses in the game just so happens to be the tiniest boss in the Geth Jerk Armada? After traveling through Prince Vorkin's body on a microscopic level, the Wonderful 101 find the virus that's causing all the trouble, Vaki. Then, straight out of nowhere, Platinum decides to make this boss a pseudo-tribute to Star Fox of all things by making the battle have a close resemblance to the final boss of Star Fox 64. In this fight, P-Star has grown a little and now is playing the role of your R-Wing. Here you'll fly around the all-range arena shooting lasers and missiles at the T-Virus. Once you whittle down his health, you can fly up to the boss and get up close and personal and tear it apart with your Unite morphs. Do this enough times and you'll initiate the next phase. In this phase, you'll have to chase after the nanomachine, shoot it down, and tear apart its armor. Afterwards, you continue to chase it, and eventually you'll leave Vorkin's body. In the final phase, you find an average-sized virus, and notice that one of the keys on the keyboard is glowing. And it just so happens that whoever presses it will grow larger and get a small advantage till the effects wear off. The battle ends with the Wonderful Ones growing back to normal size, and it's followed up by a finisher. Hey Uncle, how do you fumigate for bugs?
This is how I spray for bugs.
Team, unite up!
The operation starts with the Wonderful Ones getting to the super reactor, and after getting a lecture from a fly on how screwed the human race is, you find out that not only is the boss Taiga gigantic, but the team is too far away to do any actual damage to it while it charges up its laser. Until...
Another one? You're kidding me.
Blue, wait! Unite hand!
After a scenario ripped straight out of Bayonetta, you guide a missile into the boss to take it down, only to find yourself on the Eye of Taiga and need to smash the missile into its eye to blow it to Kingdom Come. Well, that was surprisingly short, but whatever. On to the next, and holy shit. Well, it turns out what you took down wasn't even the boss's true form. So now we went from fighting a giant sky eyeball to a giant sky serpent. Okay. You then have to run up its body and avoid the enemies being spawned to impede your progress and missiles being shot at you. One quicktime event later and are put into a random glider segment, and once you survive the sky version of Jaws and after one quicktime event, you trick Taiga into tearing off half its body and initiate the final phase. After pulling out a pair of arms and 2 large saws, you need to jump between platform to platform and one by one break off his arm saws or pin down one of its antennae and get onto its head to smash it in. Do this enough times and the final phase starts where you jump from platform to platform, avoiding its attacks until you get to the Virgin Victory to finish it off. After giving it a taste of its own lightning, you shoot and smash it one last time and finish off the battle by impaling the boss with one of the enemies. A very satisfying way to end this great fight. Also, the operation ends with a failed kamikaze strike. Only in the Wonderful 101 can stuff like this happen.
Team, unite up!
Talk about a great first impression. For many people, this was the fight that turned the Wonderful 101 from a good game to an amazing one. But now I'm getting ahead of myself. The battle with Orochi starts with the Wonderful 100 controlling the Virgin Victory to both fly and shoot down Orochi. Think of it like a slower version of Star Fox. After taking off enough of the Blue Eyes Not Dragon's health, you jump onto its wings and then onto its back to start the next phase. Now you start taking down 2 of Hudra's heads as they shoot fire, blast you with high frequency noise, and even try to fling you off. Also on a side note, grinding a dragon's face into a wall is the most badass thing that can be done in an action game. After getting back on, Lambo Hambo will jump in to do a short version of the fight you had earlier. One quick time event later and you stab out one of Orochi's eyes and take control of one of its heads. After taking control, you tear apart and destroy 2 of the heads and then begin the longest fall ever leading into the final phase. Here you jump from platform to platform, protecting the platform that you're on and whittle down Orochi's health, eventually making it onto the statue to take down what's left of Orochi's health. After rebuilding the statue's bow, you launch the team right through both bosses, grab Lambo's sword, and perform the most satisfying finisher ever, cutting both bosses clean in half. And that's Orochi, a great boss to introduce a great series of bosses.
Team, unite up!
Roger.
If it isn't the heir to the throne of the roaming Rulo, leader of the space pirate band known across the universe as the Gaizak, Prince Vorkin.
Prince Vorkin and his band of space pirates acted as the rivals to the Sentinels early on in the game, as you fight them on 2 separate occasions, and in both cases you barely took them down by the skin of your teeth. Now it's time to finish this rivalry once and for all. After making it to the final goddess statue, you learn that a mild disagreement led to one of the major bosses getting killed off screen. Why would he kill off his own ally?
Allies? Does the Nyuk-Fats ally with the Dizbong?
Well, I can't argue with that logic. After the characters blab about Vorkin's backstory, the fight begins. The first phase might look familiar to anyone who's played the game, as it's very similar to the 2 earlier fights with Vorkin. However, in this case, he copied every Unite morph that you have up to this point in the game, and even adds in a few of his own to keep you on your toes. The first phase ends when the Wonderful Ones jump from Vorkin's ship onto the Virgin Victory and initiate the most mind-blowing quick-time event in the game. At the end, you kick Vorkin off of his ship and initiate the next phase. Things look like they might be turning around as you separate Vorkin from his power source, only to reveal that he has his own unlimited form. Now begins the most challenging part of the fight, as you have less room to maneuver as you're pushed to your limits on using your Unite morphs and dodging. Once you whittle down his health, you end the fight with a dramatic finisher followed by Vorkin's demise. Or not. What I also like about this fight is that thematically, it's not only a battle of strength, it's also a battle of ideals. With the Sentinels, they fight to protect everyone, strong and weak, and as for Vorkin and his space pirates, it's an endless desire to get stronger and to rule everything in the galaxy with an iron fist. Whoever wins proves which ideals can lead them to victory, and that's the battle with Prince Vorkin, a great battle that only falls short of being number 1.
Team, unite up!
Roger.
Well, by process of elimination and watching videos made by the Quarter Guy, odds are you know what number 1 is. But for the sake of people who don't know, let's set up the scenario. The Major General is dead, the final MacGuffin that protected the Earth is destroyed, and an entire armada is coming to destroy everything and everyone on the planet. After getting to the Shirogane Cannon, you destroy an entire armada, only to reveal that in a hidden pocket dimension had a backup armada and the not Death Star hellbent on destroying the Earth. And with the combined efforts of the Sentinels, Immorta, and hell, even the Gaizak, you break into the fortress to take down the leader of the Geth Jerk, Jerkinga. The first phase, with Father Brain, has you destroy several orbs along the base of the machine while avoiding its attacks from the sides and rotating the base to continue damaging it. Afterwards, you destroy the jar holding him in place and reflect several laser beams back at him to whittle down his health. This is followed up by one long monologue on why the Geth Jerk are attempting to destroy the human race, followed up by pulling a relic of his destroyers, a Wonder Mask. The second phase has him use Geth Jerk version of all your Unite morphs, and after an epic battle, you whittle down his health, destroy the brain, and make a dramatic escape with 2 ships from the exploding base. And it's still not done yet! After the base collapses in on itself, Jerkinga transforms it into its planet destruction form and takes a one-way course to Earth. And as the amazing music starts playing, you then jack up to 200 mechs to create even larger Unite morphs to break past its AT field and tear the giant jerk apart. And after one supremely empowering QuickTime event where you send a barrage of missiles back at him, it still isn't over yet, as you have to go all over his body and break every weak point all over his body and then his head. And even after getting hit by all 7 giant versions of your Unite morphs, including a headbutt from Platinum Robo, he has one last ace up his sleeve. A laser strong enough to destroy the entire planet. Now you're put between a rock and a hard place as you charge up one final laser to protect the Earth. And with the combined force of all your major characters, and after mashing the ever-loving hell out of the A button, you do the impossible and take that giant jerk down. taking out the Supreme Overlord of the Geth Jerk and saving the entire planet. What I like about this battle is that at any point this fight could have been seen as a complete package, such as the battle against the evil Unite Morphs, the escape scene, or hell, even the first part of the final phase. But those crazy bastards at Platinum ended the Wonderful 101 with the most complete and epic fight in any action game, even topping their previous games like Bayonetta. This is the Renegade Master, and if you haven't given the Wonderful 101 a chance, well, I suggest getting a Wii U and getting one of the best action games I've ever played. With all that said, I'm signing out.